Hello everybody, my name is Abdi and welcome to my channel. Today what I'm going to be showing you guys is how to study your video reference. I've been animating for about 6 years and there's quite a period for me where I just couldn't quite understand how to study my video reference, how to like properly, find my storytelling poses, and there was certain parts where I would get very confused on what to pick and what to not pick. I struggled with just finding my important poses. So I would imagine there are beginner animators out there who are probably struggling with just the same issues. And today I'm just going to be kind of showing you guys a couple of things that I personally look for when I'm studying my video reference. So right here in front of me, I got this girl doing some cool kung fu stuff, and I think this would be a good video for me to kind of demonstrate what I'm going to show you. I'm just going to play for you guys so that you can just see. I chose this. There's a lot of things going on in this reference, and I'm just going to play for you so you can just kind of see what it looks like. There it is. So it's actually two different clips. There's this one where she's doing, there's a lot of movement, a lot of punching, a lot of stuff going on. And then there's this other one. I was originally just going to choose this first bit, but then I realized the second clip is kind of valuable because she's flipping and doing something a bit more complicated. So I thought, this would be useful to try and like show you how I'm gonna go about it. So without further ado, let's get into it. First things first, when it comes to whenever I'm gonna be studying a video reference and I'm gonna be finding my poses, there's three things that I personally I always look for, and I've written them down here. And those three things are contacts. So that's the first one. Contacts, which means basically the feet are often contacting with the ground. So feet, and it could just generally be hands as well, and basically anything that's contacting with the ground. It's often hands and feet, but it could be anything that's contacting with the ground. So any kind of contact that happens with the ground, that's an important pose for me. The first one is contacts. Any kind of contact that's happening, I'm always picking that. Second one is high and low points. This is basically where my character is at their highest point and their lowest point. This often applies to doesn't often just apply, but it always applies to jumps. Also, your character might be, a walk cycle. Often you pick the highest point where the hips are, or the character is at their highest, and then you pick their lowest. It applies to jumps as well. Characters at their lowest when they closest to the ground, and then they jump, and you pick when they're at their highest point, and before they then come down, and then you pick the lowest point. So this is very important that you are aware of high and low points. The third one for me that I'm looking for as well is extremes. Anything that's basically anything that reaches extreme point before a return. I mean, it kind of applies to this one as well, because this would be an extreme point where it reaches the furthest before a return. But this is also like, for example, a hand, right? Sometimes the hands, your character might be doing something, and sometimes they can stretch like that, like the hand is completely open. This is terrible drawing. The hand is completely open like that, straight, and then it kind of returns to this. This would be an extreme because it kind of like it's stretched. Everything. It's very important that you pick this. So this is what I would. This is what I consider an extreme. And it could be with the feet as well. If the foot is kind of on the ground like that, and then maybe like a kick happens, right? So this is what I consider an extreme. And that's something that we're going to be looking for in this reference as well. So those for me are the three things that I'm always often looking for. So So let me just play this one more time. Yeah, she's doing a lot of cool things, right? You know, she's smacking the ground and she's hitting a really cool kung fu pose, right? So this is gonna be very interesting to kind of find our storytelling poses. But first thing first, I'm going to do is I'm not gonna overcomplicate things, right? We're trying to the first step is always just finding your storytelling poses, your main storytelling poses, just really basic storytelling poses that the reason why they're called storytelling is because when a person watches it, they should be able to kind of tell what's happening, right? It's not going to be detailed, but it's just going to be very, very simple. And so let's get into it. So the first I'm just gonna I always pick the first one, but you know, sometimes the pose might not be looking right and I might actually scroll through a little bit and choose a different one, but this one makes sense because she's running. So this is going to be our first pose, and my second pose is this one is going to be my second pose. It's a contact, so she moves and right about there is a contact. This is going to be important, and I'm going to pick this. Sometimes it's a little can be a little tricky, but this one is the one that makes sense because that's the first moment she makes contact with the ground. And then the smacking happens, right? Then there's the smacking, right? Bam. Smacks the ground. Just like that. And then she strikes this pose. So there's a lot of there's little things happening in the feet, but I'm just gonna pick when she hits the pose, like there we go, that's it. She hits the pose right there. And I'm gonna pick the last point, the last moment before she starts moving to her next pose, right? Before she starts punching. And I choose that because it's in my animation I like to pick the last moment. You could kind of pick this first moment, but this kind of helps me understand how long she's going to be staying within that pose. So that's why I like to choose the last point before she moves, before she does something. So this is the last point before she gets out of this pose. So I'm gonna pick this. And then she starts doing a lot of punches, and this is very tricky, right? This is the parts that could be a little tricky, but she's doing a lot of little punches. But I'm gonna, again, this is just storytelling poses, right? It's storytelling poses, and I'm just thinking about how basic can I make this whole thing. I'm not trying to add every little detail at the beginning, so I'm just trying to figure out should I pick this one? This is a very important pose, so she hits a pose there. That's definitely important. But there's a punch happening here. I could pick this one. Right, there we go. Bam. Yeah, I'm gonna pick this one. It's a punch right there. There's a punch right there. And then we hit this pose. There we go. I'm gonna pick this as an important pose. She hits this very important pose. Again, it's an extreme because she reaches that before returning. So this is like the most extreme she goes right there before a return, right? So that's an extreme, so I would pick that. I always like to draw on top because this helps me kind of get a sense of the flow that's going through my pose. or hair pose. And then we hit this. We hit the last pose. So I'm just gonna pick the last point before she moves off. But obviously we move to the next clip anyway, so it doesn't matter. Oh God, Sync Sketch is a bit buggy. I'm using my Apple Pen and every time it's just kind of freezing, not doing anything. There we go. And she's doing this reverse C. And then we move to the next clip, right? So I'm gonna pick this one first, because it's where she starts off. Gonna choose that. A contact is very important. Gonna pick this. Feet makes first contact with the ground. There's a low point happening here before she jumps up as well. It's not noticeable, but I'm not gonna worry about those things at the moment. Again, it's just storytelling poses. We're gonna do that when we're gonna be finding our in-betweens. But another contact happens right about there. Right there. Bam, you don't really see it, but that's it, there we go. And look how cool the pose is. It's a fantastic pose. And then, because she's gonna be jumping, right? She's gonna jump after this. This is where I will always look for where she reaches her highest point. Because she jumps up, right? I'm gonna look at her hips here. And I'm just gonna imagine like where it reaches its highest point before returning to the ground. Right, goes up. I'm just gonna delete this. This is not quite the highest point she reaches, but it's around. It's somewhere here. See, there's the return. I think this is the highest, so I'm gonna pick this one. She reaches her highest point here. Oh God, freezing again. Okay, there we go. Right. And then first contact. It could generally ignore the contact for now, and we could just pick this pose, but I am just going to choose. I think it's, yeah. First contact to the ground, and then she strikes this pose. Really cool. There we go. So this is our storytelling poses. We've just done our storytelling pose. This is enough to tell the whole story. So the first clip, there we go. She runs, smacks the ground, and then she strikes that pose, and then she does a couple punches, and then she hits this pose, and then we strike the last pose. And the next one, this is a contact, and then another contact with the ground again. Very important. If we didn't pick that, it would feel a bit strange. If we pick this one or this one, it's not gonna feel right. So it's important that we picked like the first second she makes contact with the ground, right? And then highest point she reaches her highest point, and then she returns to the ground, and first contact, we pick the first contact. We could ignore it and just go into this one, because this is just our basic storytelling poses, but it doesn't matter anyway, because later on we're always going to include a contact. The contacts are always going to be included, but we kept it simple enough that it's enough to basically tell the whole story, right? She's running, she's jumping, highest point, lowest point, she strikes that pose. I hope you guys understood this way that I'm pretty sure every animator does it this way. We're always looking for the contact, smack, strikes that pose, punches, and then hits that pose. And now you're wondering, okay, we've found our storytelling poses. How do we break it down? But the next thing that I would look for after this, right? Contact, smack, and then there's a lot of things going on in the middle. And the first thing I'll look for is because she's running, and if you know how running works generally, if you ever animated a run cycle, there's a high point, and then there's, you know, a low point, and then up, and there's a lot of up and down that happens in running and walking. So that is always happening. That's always happening in any kind of run, and you can see it's happening here. Like she goes down slightly, if you can see that, she goes down before she goes up a little bit, right? There's a little bit of down and then up that's happening, right? And that is the next thing that I would pick is like there, like right about there, she goes up. But before I do that, I generally pick a different color. Maybe green actually, but yeah, I'll pick a different color so that I can understand my in-betweens and my storytelling poses, and my breakdowns. Every time I'm gonna break something down, I'll pick a different color so I know that is another breakdown, right? So I can remember each breakdowns. But this right about here, she's going down. There it is. So there's a little bit of down, and then she quickly comes back up, but it's about here. She goes down, so her waist is going down, her body is leaning this way, right? And that is what's happening. And then we continue, and then a smack is happening. For me, this one, I don't worry about adding an in-between for this, because it happens very fast. So you can see from here to here, it happens very quickly. So I don't worry about adding an in-between for now. Maybe later on I will add, but for now I don't wanna, I generally don't add. I could pick this one, like her, you see her knee is coming in, easing in. Like again, I could pick one of this, right? Like maybe this one. But again, this is happening very fast, so I'm not gonna pick. But from here to here, there's a lot of things going on. Like there's a lot of things going on with her hands, if you can see. Like her hands are doing this spinning thing where it's kind of, she's doing something cool there, right? So there's a lot of stuff going on, and the feet are adjusting as well. There's little things going on with the feet, right? Before she strikes that pose. So we absolutely gonna need breakdowns for this. You know, this is where in your animation, if you don't add proper breakdowns, this is where your animation just will not feel right. Her left foot goes forward a little bit, and before the right one starts moving, right? So there's a lot of things going on. So anyway, which one would I pick here? You know, what would I pick? What is important? For me, I'm going to pick a contact. So there we go. She makes a contact here. So her foot goes from where it was, her left foot, and then it makes a contact. It moves forward a little bit. You see that? And that moment when it makes first contact, I'll pick that. This would be my in-between. And whatever the hands are doing, I'll just kind of copy it. So there we go. So there we go. This would be my in-between. Bam. And there's a lot more. We're just going to keep breaking it down, because from this point to this point, you can see the foot is actually planted. You see how the foot is still planted before it starts, like her left foot, before it starts moving. we're gonna need to pick the last point before it starts moving, right? Before something happens, right? That's the last point before it starts moving. So we'd pick this pose, but we're not gonna do this now. We're just gonna do that in the next round of breakdowns, right? But this round, this is the one I would pick, and then I would move on to the next poses, right? I'll move on to this too, and how I'm gonna add an in-between. And there's actually, this one is very easy to see, because actually her right foot goes up before it comes down, right? So remember, high points and low points, her foot is going really up before it returns. So this point is really important. This is the furthest up that the foot moves before a return. So I would, this would be an in-between for me. I like to make the leg a bit clear when I'm sketching on top, because in my for my character, I don't want it to necessarily feel almost flat. Like if you look at her leg, it's kind of facing the camera. It's sort of like this sort of thing. And if you know about like silhouette, it's important that you make everything clear in your poses, so that it doesn't feel like, you know, she got a short leg here and then she has a longer leg. Like it's gonna feel a bit weird, so you gotta make it the leg clear that it's actually kind of bending. So that's exactly what I like to do early on, so that my mind, I'm already aware of that. Maybe we go the other way. Sort of like that sort of thing. Yeah. There we go. So that's going to be my in-between for this one. And so there's a punch happening, right? You can see right here, there's a punch happening. See that punch that happens there? You might be worried and being like, oh, I didn't include that punch. That is just gonna be a breakdown. So I don't worry about this. Like this is very important, but this is gonna be a breakdown for like later on. But I'm not gonna include any of that at the moment. I'm just gonna keep everything as simple, and I just work my way from there. And it's just like, it's gonna be less, the process is not gonna be as painful. Everything is gonna be clear and easy to follow. Without being caught up by, oh, there's a punch happening here, maybe I should not pick this one. But this one is important because the feet goes up at its furthest before returning. Like that's very important. Her right foot goes up before returning. So that's why we picked that one. But there's more things going on. There's things that are reaching extremes. It's not just the foot that's reaching an extreme or a high point, but the hand, she's punching there, and that is also an extreme before a return. So we're just going to come back to that in the next breakdowns, right? And it's also happening really fast, so it's very important that we're aware of that. Like it's happening in just a frame, like one frame. So that's very important that we're aware of that. But anyway, we move on to the next one, right? So this was the breakdown, and then we go from this one to this one. I'm not really going to add a breakdown to this, because this is really fast. You see, like this happens really fast. It doesn't really need much of a breakdown. You can actually get creative as you want. Like in your animation, you can just really, like in your rig, you can just kind of play around with it. Like really, you can just stretch you could literally do almost everything, because it's happening really fast. So I wouldn't really worry about an in-between for this one. Of course, in between is important as well, because you can still see like what the arm is doing. But this is happening fast, so I don't worry about that. The ones that matter is the ones that, like, from this point to this point, a lot of stuff happens in the middle. So it's important that we break this stuff down. So right here, both her legs, they go up before coming down. Do you see that? They're going up. They're going up. And this one is a bit tricky because you might be thinking, should I be worried about her waist, like how much it's going up, or the feet? The feet are for me more important because we can always come back to the waist, like how much her waist is going up. But the feet are they're really, really important. You can see, she's jumping and then coming down, right? A little jump right there. But actually, while the feet are going up, her waist is coming down. So there's cool things happening here that can be a bit tricky. But you would just pick the highest point where the feet are going up at the high. So there it is. That's the highest point they reach before they return. See, the second one is actually going up while the other, her right foot is coming down. The second, her left foot is going up. That's fun stuff. That's important to add as well. But right now, we're just gonna pick this one. This is the furthest up they both go. Right. There it is. And then there's a first contact. It's important that we include this later on as well. So you can see they come down and they make first contact, but I don't worry about that now. I've just added this, so I'm not gonna worry about the first contact for now. The next round of in-betweens, I'm going to add this in, right? So it comes down, there we go. And there's a little bit of coming down and up that's happening there. So that's also important that we add in, like her waist goes down a little bit. If you can see, there's a little bit of down and up happening, right? There's a little bit, like right around here, there's a little bit of down and up happening, but I'm not going to include this in this round. Maybe again, I'm going to include this in the next round of in between. So I'm going to move on to this one. And this one is really simple. Sometimes you see certain parts of your video reference there's not really much anything too cool happening, other than the fact that the legs are probably leading the action before the hands come down. But overall, it's very simple. Like we could just pick any one of these. Like this is not for me. Yeah, I'll just pick this one, right? See, it's just very simple. The leg is coming forward and then contact happens, right? And then from this point to this point, from this pose to this pose, this foot, we're going to be focusing on her left foot. So the left foot, the first, we already recorded the contact. Now what I'm going to look for is probably the down pose. I think that's important, right? Like her body is coming down here, like that's what's happening. That is what I'm gonna look for. So there it is before it comes up. There we go, it comes up after that. So this is the lowest that her body goes. Because it's a run, and it's always important that any run you always pick these poses. They're very, very important. Like this is the lowest thing she goes. I don't know what the other arm is doing. Kind of, I guess, sort of like that. And then we move on from this one to this one, and there's a lot going on here. So actually what happens is her body goes down here, like her body, she goes down a little bit before she jumps up. But I'm not gonna pick that right now. Maybe in the next round of in-betweens, I'm gonna pick that one. But for now, I'm gonna choose the last point she's contacting with the ground. And it's quite big actually, you know. Her foot is fully planted here. I mean, maybe not fully, there's a little bit of a lift happening. But yeah, I'll pick this one. This is the last point she's contacting. This is the last point she's contacting with the ground. Oh no, I made a mistake. I picked the wrong color. This was an in-between, it's yellow. Yeah. So her leg goes up and her other foot is last contacting with the ground before we jump up. And then, you know, that's basically going to be our in-between this round. There's again a lot of stuff going on, like the hands, she's grabbing her legs there, right? Her lower leg. And that's important, like there's a contact, the first contact, the hands are making first contact with her legs. So that is important pose that we need to pick, but not now. We're not gonna do that one now. And then we hit that last pose. I don't think there is too much. I think this one is quite easy, you know. In your animation, this one will be happening quite fast. Not too fast. You can see it in my timeline, but I think it's very easy. Like you could pick this one. You could like pick this one. Yeah, but I'm actually not gonna pick any of this one. I'm not gonna pick any in between for this, because I think she just goes from here, and I want in my animation this to feel fast, like bam, quicker. So I don't think there's really much of an in-between. But this one, her waist, her whole body comes down. I always call it waist, I don't know if that's right. Her whole body comes down before going up. Like there's a little bit of a down and then back up. Like if you can see that, there's a little bit of a down and up and a little settle, right? I would pick the lowest point. So that's probably around the lowest point, right? So I'll pick this one. And this is like, I'm gonna flip through the frames and you can see it got more detail now, right? And this is generally how I find my important poses, right? And after I add like all my in-between, like at this point, I would have my animation basically looking, you know, very close, but little things are gonna be off, and there's always more detail, right? There's always more detail to include, and that's the thing that's like really fun. But you shouldn't also overdo it. You shouldn't pick pointless detail like right here, right? This is not really important. Like Maya will automatically give you this because you already have, like, you go from this point to this point. But there's still more detail, like for example, there's a first contact, like her foot is making a first contact there, and then the foot instantly goes down. You see that? It goes down in like one frame. See that? Bam. This foot. So that's a detail that you can add. And then you could add an in-between here. Like the hands are coming down. you could like add the in-between here as well. But anyway, I should pick a different color for this now. So I'd pick a different color. Yeah, let's continue the third round of in-betweens. Some of the stuff I'm not really going to give much of an in-between to, because it's very simple, very easy. Like we go from here to here. This one is pretty easy. But here, I would pick this. I think this would be an in-between. And now we're just getting very detailed with our in-betweens. Right, just before a smack happens, coming down, bam, we hit the ground. And then, you see what her hands are doing there? There's a last contact, there's a last contact before the hands are completely off the ground, right? And it's about here. Like this, so you know, her body is going up. Her body is leading the action. You see that, how the body is going up before her hands follow. So I'll pick this one. I'd personally pick this one, but I'm actually not going to for now, simply because there's a lot of gap. Like you see from this frame to this frame, there's a huge gap in the middle that I feel like there's other details that are more important right now than that. So I'm actually gonna focus on other details that matter more than that for now. And that is the hand. You see her left hand is kind of coming this way. See how it's coming this way? It's like rotating this way before it goes the other way. This is important. So this would be a pose for me, right? The hand is doing that, and it's going like that way. So that's like an extreme, right? It reaches that extreme point before doing something else, going the other way. And then we hit the pose. Her right hand is also going up. Like here, it reaches its furthest point. That's a detail, but I'm not going to include that detail right now. You're just choosing one detail to focus on at a time, really. And then you come back in another round of in-betweens and you just find like more detail. But it's also important, again, in your animation not to follow one by one exactly and make your animation like slower. You gotta do your timing well at the beginning and have your timing spot on, and then you can kind of choose with what details to include. And there's always so much detail. Some of the stuff you can include and some of the stuff you might not need to include, but they're kind of fun. So this is an in-between, and then that, and then from here to here. So from this point to this point, her foot is moving back. So you see from here to here, her right foot is moving back before it stops. So that would be an important pose as well. It's moving back, and then it hit, like it's right when it stops, right there. So this would be an in-between, a breakdown. There it is. Beautiful. So now we basically, this is very important, we've added this detail that into our animation, that the feet goes back and right about there it stops. So it quickly, like we reach, basically what we're saying is like we're reaching this point quicker. Like we go from here to here like very quickly, and then we hit this pose. It just kind of tells you like things are happening very fast here, like bam, like that. And then here, from this point to this point, I could pick this pose. Yeah, I'm gonna pick like this one, because this hand, you see here, it's going this way before she, you know, does the punch, right? So that's important. And we could exaggerate this in our animation, like she really does pull her hand in more before she strikes, like she does this strike. Oh, it doesn't happen there. Maybe I'm wrong. The strike happens. This is very important that we pick this pose. There's 3 poses here that we gotta, I feel like I have to pick one of them. Anticipate, like kind of an anticipation before the punch. And then the punch happens. Anyway, her feet is making first contact here. So I would pick this pose. First contact. And then her hand comes in. So you see her right hand comes in before a punch, before another punch. So that coming in is an important detail, like right there. That is an important pose, very, very important, if we want to achieve these little punches that she's doing. You know, this little bam, bam that she does, like bam, 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 right? If we want to achieve that, you have to be aware of these things, right? So the hand is going back. We're not going to pick this right now, probably in this round, but in the next one we'll probably pick this, right? We're definitely going to pick this. I don't know what I mean probably. We're absolutely going to. It's very important. And then so from here to here, let's look for if there's anything that we need. I don't think we need anything. I think this is very easy. It's a very simple one. You could literally, like anything that happens fast, I don't really mark anything. I just you can kind of see what's going on. I mean, this hand is right about there. You know what? Maybe it is actually important, because in your animation, the hand could go through the character's head. Something weird could be happening, so you gotta look at your reference and see what's going on. Oh, well, I picked the wrong color. It's green. So maybe this. Right. There we go. And then right here, so what I'm looking for here is how long the feet are gonna be on the ground. So her feet are still on the ground, still on the ground, still on the ground, still right until there. So I'll pick this pose. There we go. And then it goes up, and then it comes down. That coming down, that quick return, this is an important pose. But there's a huge gap from here to here. Maybe I'll return to that later. But because there's a huge gap here. I mean, there's not much she's doing anyway. She's already hit the pose. She's just moving between that pose, right? There's a little movements happening. But this is important that you still try and find the in-betweens for this. because there's a lot of little movement that she's doing, little settles, little movements that's happening that can really just make your animation alive when she's going to be, staying within this pose. So what I'm going to look for here is, I can see her body goes down before coming back up. See that? Like right around here, like she goes down a little bit. It's not very easy to see, but you can see like she came, like she did a little jump and then she returned, right? And then it goes down before a return, like right about here, I would say, somewhere about here. The body goes down. There it is. There we go. And then I'm gonna go into a new round, pick a different color, maybe pink. And this is like probably the last details we can find. And we're not gonna necessarily force ourselves, like at this point you've added so many breakdowns, your animation should look like it should have a lot of important things happening. It should look close to the reference, hopefully not too close. That's what I mean, that the timing has to be done well. Your animation, you have to realize that some of the parts that are happening fast, you really have to make it fast in your animation, and hold in the parts where you're staying on the staying within a pose a bit more. But generally, at this stage, your animation should have a lot of things, like a lot of things should be happening. A lot of the details should be there. It's just about little things at this stage, right? But I'm still gonna continue. We've picked the important stuff. We're just trying to find if there's any, like, for example, if we missed a contact or like a high point where the body is like at its highest before returning. Those things that we're just looking for. We're not gonna force ourselves to just like find, oh, let's just pick this in between. At that stage, you're just like literally copying the reference one by one. So I'm just gonna look through and see, right? This is, this one is important. This is where the hands are last contacting with the ground. Right about there, like this one. Her hands actually stay flat for a bit. You see there? It stays completely flat before it goes up. Like this is, I'll pick this pose, right? Like the hands are just coming back, going off the ground, making last contact. That is important. And then here, in one frame, and it's important in your animation, we probably do this as well. I'll pick this one maybe, possibly. I mean, this is too much. But I'm just gonna tell you this, right? At this stage, I have to make really like important choices for some of the things, because I think I don't want to make my animation too slow or make it feel like I've added too much detail to the point that it's like your animation is gonna feel a bit slower, right? Because you're almost following it one by one. I don't want to do that. So maybe I would just ignore this point. Maybe I wouldn't ignore this, but maybe I would just do that in my animation. I would just kind of like pull the hand. There's some of these things you can do when you're animating at that point. Right here, there's a last contact happening. This one is very important. Yes, there's a last contact happening. See right here? There we go. Last contact with the ground before it goes up. So that's important detail. And then here, there's little things happen. This one, there's a lot of there's in-betweens required here. So right here, the foot stays there, and yeah, the foot like her right foot stays there before it moves. So I'm only focusing on the right now. There's something going on with the left as well, but I'm focusing on the right, because if we pick just by picking this one, like, see, it's the last point. Oh God, again, it's happening. There's a lot, like my pen just freezes and I can't draw. It's so annoying. This is a Sing Sketch problem. It's not my pen. So there's the last contact before her right foot moves. That is important, and by picking that, we will kind of already, you can see her other foot stays there as well. No, actually, her other foot moves before the right. Her left foot moves before the right. See here? Like the left foot is already moving. That's a small detail that we can add, but that should be good enough. Adding this. And also we've just included, finally, what we needed to include, like this hand going back before the punch. Sometimes you'll pick a pose for like literally something else, like the foot here, and we can just pick the other details that were also important. So this hand going back before a punch, we got that now. There we go. There's a first contact here, so yes, this is important. So she goes up, and then there's a first contact happening. Both her feet are first contacting with the ground. This is important as well, because this basically is telling us that this is happening really quickly. Like you see from here to here, it's like just one frame in between. But you could exaggerate this in your animation. You could just really push stuff, make it even faster. And then we struck this pose. And then here, we actually stay within this pose for a little bit before the leg moves off. See that? So her left leg is staying in place. Slight movement forward, so she's moving forward a little bit, so she's moving forward this way. But her right foot stays kind of where it is until, here, right? It starts moving. So this is the last point that her foot is gonna be staying within that pose before it moves. And then here, so we pick the down, like the moment she goes down, her other foot is making last contact before it goes off, right? So this pose is important, right? Last point. It's peeling off. It's important that you understand that, like, the foot is peeling off. This other one is moving. See that? And then up. And then here, there's a lot of stuff going on here. Her hands are making their first contact. Like, you see how her hands are coming around and she's holding her legs there? So the hands make first contact with the legs. There. Bam. That's the first contact that the hands make. So this is the hands making first contact with the legs. So we're gonna pick this pose. And this other leg is coming around, and you can see the hand is kind of just holding it there. So the hands are making first contact. And then from this point, just coming down, we already picked the first contact there. This is a jump, so generally in my animation, when it comes to jumps, I tend to hold at the top a little more, like right around here, and then I would make the next one like really fast, like from this point to this point. It would happen really quickly because it means she was hanging in the air before, and then she would quickly come down, like generally what you expect from a jump, right? So there's a little bit of a hang at the top. So I would probably pick. See, this one is an easy one because it's kind of the same sort of thing, same kind of pose. It's just very simple. There's nothing crazy going on. If the hand was doing something strange, I would be like, oh, that's important. But this is a simple one, so I would pick this one, right? Maybe this. All right, maybe that one. And she's still holding. Yeah, there we go. And you can see just how many keys we've added. I mean, there's so much detail we've included now. Like, your animation should feel really, really good. Again, timing is important as well. So when we were finding our main storytelling poses, you gotta, like early on, you gotta establish a good timing. You gotta match the timing early on, and then work add your in-betweens. So sometimes something in your animation would be happening so differently, like really fast, compared to your reference, that you might not even need that detail. Like you might just be like, okay, this is happening quickly. I'm not really going to need that detail. But generally, we've just picked all the important details. So contacts, high points, every contact we have here. The legs when they're last staying within a place and before they move off, and maybe we even picked here, the last point that the leg is contacting with the ground. We picked the first contact here. The hands is the same thing. When the hand, when her right hand goes back, we already have that pose, and we have everything. We have the pose, here when she does the punch. We have this pose, her whole body going back there, and then we have that pose. We've got all the necessary details. Like these poses are not pointless. We didn't just pick random. Maybe this couple where there's something boring. It's just a boring movement, right? But generally, we've picked all the important stuff, most of the stuff, right? And every pose has a purpose. Everything like this. This pose is the first contact. This pose is when she's lowest and her body's going down, right? And this is the last point that her other foot is contacting with the ground. And then this is when she makes first contact with the ground. And actually here we could add a pose. I probably missed this one. Right around here. Right around here, see, right there. Her body actually goes down, if you can see that. Like, I've animated stuff like this before. It's a bit easier for me to kind of detect that, but her body actually goes down before it goes up. Like there's right here, like here, I would say. Her body actually goes like her body goes down a little bit. If you include that in your animation, trust me, it's gonna look so cool. It's gonna look really, really cool. So we picked that one. Add little arrows and stuff that can help you, like write stuff down that can really just tell you why you picked that pose. But you see, I hope you've learned something from this. I hope you've learned every pose I'm picking has a purpose to it. Everything I'm picking is like, oh, this is the last point that this is contacting with the ground. This is the last point. This is the highest point, and this is the lowest point. This is when we hit the pose. I'm picking everything, every single little detail that I can find, important detail, I'm picking it. I'm not just randomly being like, oh, let me just pick this pose. It has to have a purpose to it. Every pose you're picking has to have a purpose to it. But I think this is the most breakdown I can do. And I would probably, even with all these breakdowns, in your animation, you might delete some of them, because it might slow down your animation. You might just be like, okay, this should happen quicker. I don't know. So you gotta make those decisions in your animation. You gotta just be like, oh, this is slowing down. I'll just get rid of it, and I will just kind of strike this pose, right? Like if we add an in between, like this in between here, you see this one here? I mean, this one is really important because the legs are going up, but some of the poses, like some of the stuff is just, you might get rid of it because it's slowing down, but all of them have a purpose to it. Anyway, I hope you've learned something from this video. I hope you can feel more confident in finding your poses in your reference. Before I end the video, I want to say, let me know if you want me to actually animate this. I'm happy to try and animate this. Maybe not this one, or maybe I would just animate this the second clip and not the first. I can't do both necessarily, but I can just animate this first bit, and so let me know if you want to see me animate this. But this is how you find your poses. This is the way to. This is how I do it personally. Yeah. Anyway, take care and happy animating.